Hi, welcome to the show. Today I'm discussing 5 reasons why the retro video game market is so expensive at the moment. And we're going to do that right now. Just before we jump into the video, a shout out to my friend of the Facebook groups, Russell Nesbitt. Very kindly sent me this Xbox 360 wired controller, which I use for my PC gaming and my streaming. And my one basically died, and he very kindly, free of charge, didn't have to pay a penny, sent this out. So absolute classic situation there that was resolved by a good friend. And he asked me to shout out his friend's channel, UK Kraut Gaming, where there's all sorts of things from modern to retro and lots of interesting things like Game Boy printer videos. So go and check that out. I said I would give a bit of a shout out. It's quite fun. I've been watching a few of the videos and there's some good stuff there. But let's crack on. Number 1. The main reason why video games are so expensive at the moment is due to the pandemic, the COVID-19 virus. Lots of people are at home. It's boredom time. They're sitting around, they're thinking, oh, what can I do? They're buying Wii's for their kids, they're buying old games to play that they remember. So I don't think we need to delve too deep into the reasons for that, because it's kind of obvious and self-explanatory. People are at home, they're bored, there's more demand for retro games, the price has gone up. So gonna move on to the next one. Number 2, retro is just cool at the moment. And I don't mean retro video games are just cool. I mean everything about retro has blown up right now. Look at all the remakes of old films. Look at all the ways celebrities are dressing like they're from the 90s or the 80s. Look at how all the different t-shirts that come out. I mean, I'm myself here, look, this isn't a vintage t-shirt. This isn't a Sonic one from the 90s. This is from like Primark or wherever they come from, somewhere like that. So retro is just cool at the moment, which again creates more of a demand because people are looking back. They're walking down and they're thinking, oh, you know, I found this nice t-shirt in Primark. I wonder what it'd be like to actually play Sonic today. And it's created a demand. So that person might go online and buy themselves a Mega Drive and a game, or there might be someone that finds a cool Mario t-shirt or a Final Fantasy t-shirt or something like that, and then go back and they want to experience those again. So I think that's one of the reasons retro in general is cool. So people that maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago wouldn't really have even thought about buying old games, suddenly they're looking at them a little bit more. I know a couple of my friends, especially since like mixing the lockdown and being able to buy things like these cool t-shirts, I know some of my friends have been asking me like, oh, do you have this game? Do you have that game? I'm always trying to direct them towards like emulation because I don't want them buying up the source of games. But in general, retro is just so popular right now. Number 3, collectors. Now, this is a bit more of a broad topic and a bit more generalization going on here, but it is true. And I've got a great example for you. Let's take these Sonic games, for example. Now, who would have thought 20 years ago that people would care that there's different versions of the artwork on this game? So only real sad cases like me care about those kind of things. But it means instead of having one copy of a game, I'm having multiple copies. So I'm sapping up the resources out there. I'm sapping up the availability of these games. Now, I'm not saying that's right or wrong. There's collectors, there's some people that are happy with like one copy of a game. But then there's some people like me, I collect Sonic games, for example. So I want as many different varieties of Sonic games I can get my hands on. And there's 2 reasons for that. One, I just love having a massive big pile of Sonic games. But secondly, it's for prosperity reasons that I'm trying to catalogue all the different variants. The supply itself in general has just dwindled a lot recently. And added into the fact that there's, you know, the pandemic more recently, but also the fact that retro games in general have been really cool to people the last couple of years, and we're having this resurgence of retro stuff. Add those 3 things together and all of a sudden the supply is less, so therefore demand is higher. Number 4, and again this one's a little bit more generalized, but I think there's some real truth and some legs behind this argument. What I call a false nostalgia. Now, what on earth does that mean? So what I'm talking about is when we get this situation where popular people in the media or on YouTube, even people like myself, might create a false demand for a game. So when there's like a hidden gems video, or 10 games you must play before you die, or the 10 best NES games, or whatever it may be, or 10 games on the Super Nintendo you might not have heard of. Millions of people watch those because they're great entertainment. It puts the idea in people's heads that there's games out there that they might not have tried. And it creates I call a false nostalgia for them, where they think they should have played it at the time, so they want to go back now and play it, even if it's not like the best game or they're not collecting for that. And again, the supply and the demand starts dwindling. Number 5, and the last sort of argument or piece I want to bring up really, it's about remakes. Now, as we all know, the last couple of years, last 2-3 years, we've had some really great remakes of games coming out. And this isn't about those games themselves, my point here. It's just more about what it does to the retro gaming market. Now, here's a great story. Now, one of my friends, who was a work colleague, had no interest in retro video games. But as soon as that Resident Evil 2 remake hit the shelves, I think it was like last summer, wasn't it? It was about last summer, so it hit the shelves. The first thing he wanted to do after he played that, because he loved it so much, was go and buy a PlayStation and get the original Resident Evil 2 or Saturn or whatever he played it on. So it creates a false demand. So all of a sudden you've got another customer and you've got another person collecting in the scene. Well, not necessarily collecting, but another person buying up the product. So there's 5 reasons why I think the retro market has exploded recently. But what about you? Do you think there's any other reasons? Did I miss anything off? Or can you add to any of the suggestions I've put forward? Let me know in the comments below. I've been Retro Faith. Thanks for watching. And as always, keep it retro.